Joining me with more on what the new state water mandate means to you and your neighbors are my guests, Dana Freehoff, Water Resources Manager for County Water Authority, and Travis Pritchard with San Diego Coastkeeper. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dana, how does the water authorities here in San Diego, the recommendation for a level 2 drought ordinance compare to the state's new mandate?
Right. Well, we think, really the state has taken an unprecedented move in requiring mandatory water use restrictions statewide. And we believe our staff recommendation to have our member agencies, the retail agencies, go to a mandatory level, go to a level 2, is consistent with what the emergency regulations are calling for.
And specifically, what are the recommendations here in San Diego County for water users?
Well, for example, we're going to look at not washing down driveways and sidewalks. For example, turning off your fountains unless they're recirculating. In fact, we're looking at not using the fountain unless with potable water, that you have to use recycled water, for example. Repair leaks within 72 hours. We're also looking at eliminating runoff when you're irrigating, so you don't have runoff from your lawns or your landscape. And then also look at limiting outdoor watering. So this could mean, for example, 3 watering days a week in the summer, 1 day a week in the winter. And then also only watering, obviously, during the morning and the evening and not watering in the middle of the day.
And we're familiar with some of these, but Travis, throughout this drought, the county has relied on these voluntary conservation efforts, saying when to water and don't waste this water. Do you think that's enough?
Voluntary restrictions I don't think are enough. When you look at the effectiveness of voluntary restrictions versus mandatory restrictions, both in our region and everywhere else, you find mandatory restrictions are vastly more effective than voluntary restrictions. And especially when you look at San Diego specifically, where we have really been conserving over the past 20 years, with recently our uses have been going up.
A slight increase on that, right? About 3.5% last year?
We're looking at about 10% in San Diego.
I see.
And so when you call for voluntary restrictions, I feel like you're really targeting the people who already are conserving. And it's not until you get to mandatory conservation that you start to bring in the people who haven't yet stepped up their game.
And Dana, let's talk about that. It was widely reported that the non-compliant residents would face fines of upwards of $500 under the state mandate. Will those fines apply to San Diego County?
It's going to be up to the local jurisdiction. The cities and the water districts have ordinances in place for these different levels of mandatory water use restrictions. And in those ordinances, they will have enforcement mechanism, enforcement process. So really the state has given you the tool to fine up to $500 per violation per day, but it's really going to be the local agencies that's going to enforce it based on their enforcement mechanism in place. And I do want to say the 10% increase in water use is just these last few months because it's been so hot here in San Diego County.
And we will get back to that. I did want to touch on the fines just one more time. So people should call their local water distributor basically to find out about the fines and the restrictions, correct?
Great, yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that because they should. We're a wholesale agency. We deal with our retail agencies and they should contact their retail agency to find what's in place.
Who enforces these fines? Are we having neighbors report neighbors, or how do you find out about this and who enforces them?
Yeah, it will be an outreach from the local agencies and then it'll be up to them what tools they want to use to have it enforced.
Okay, and I understand starting August 1st, all California water agencies, as you're talking about the wholesale agent, will be required to report water usage to the state, correct? The governor's goal is 20% conservation. What would be an acceptable level of water conservation here in San Diego County?
Well, it's a struggle here. As Travis mentioned, we have done a great job conserving here in San Diego County. Our water use is down already 20% since 2007. So we are going to look for a reduction. Our model ordinance has an up to 20% reduction. And so we're going to encourage residents and businesses to do whatever they can to conserve.
And let me end with this with you, Travis. What do you think else could be done as far as conserving water? The fines, are the regulations adequate?
Well, it's really up to the jurisdictions, like Dana said. If the jurisdictions don't step up their enforcement of these mandatory restrictions, then really what you have is consequence-free mandatory restrictions, which is just voluntary restrictions, and that doesn't work. We would like to see a 20% or greater conservation effort in San Diego. Being water importers who import where 100% of our water comes from drought-stricken areas, we have the responsibility to really use our water as effectively as possible since we are borrowing it from other areas.
All right, well, there's a lot more about this on our website, kpbs.org. Travis Pitchard and Dana Freeall, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.